Hello, we are live for our 11 o'clock appointment to talk about editorial calendars. Oh, I got to look here. So I'm just going to wait here for a minute while I continue to set up to give people a chance to join live if they want to. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below this post, and I will stop periodically and try to look at them. Let me see if I can bring this up so I can see you on my computer. I have my computer and my notes over here. So hopefully some of you will join me live, because that always is a little more fun. Okay, well I'm just going to get started because I think a lot of people are going to watch this on the replay, more so than being here live. So, I wanted to give you a little bit of a background on, excuse me, on my editorial career. 2 years ago, I left a job where I was the managing editor of a large website called Edmunds.com, and it was an automotive website. And there were two websites for a while, actually. One was called InsideLine.com, and that was for auto enthusiasts. And I was the managing editor, so I was in charge of making sure that we published, and making sure we published every day, and our tools were in good working order, and that everyone was organized, and we had a staff of about 35 in the editorial department. It was a large company. I mean, there were probably 400 to 500 employees overall, but the 35 people is a lot of people to have in an editorial department. That's fairly large. So I had to keep everything organized, and I had to make sure that everyone knew what their deadlines were, and we had to just make sure that we had enough content constantly. Hi Jamie, thank you for joining. So what I did when I was at Edmunds.com is I had to plan a lot out with my editor-in-chief and the executive editor, and we would stand around. I had a gigantic whiteboard that took up like the whole wall, and I made it look like a calendar, and then we color coordinated with post-it notes the different types of articles that we would do. So we would do car reviews, or we would do features, or we would do news, or auto show content, different kinds of things, and I would make them different colors. So the most popular thing that we did, and what we did most often, almost every day, was we wrote car reviews. So I made them yellow. Sorry, I keep coughing. And it just really helped to color coordinate, because you could take a step back from the board and you could see where you were missing some kind of color. Because it was predominantly yellow, because that's what we did, but then if there wasn't enough blue, we knew we needed to add a feature. If there wasn't enough red, we knew we needed to add a news story, or different kinds of content like that. So I've carried that on into my own planning now that I have a blog. And I just use a paper calendar like this. Now there's all kinds of calendars that you can use. You can use Google Calendar, which is online. There are different kinds of apps that you can use. There are plugins that you can add to your WordPress site. There's all different ways that you can keep a calendar. And this one's pretty large. So I use this, and it has like a month spreads out across 2 pages. Like this is March, and this is for not my main blog. I have a second website that I treat like a magazine. So I try to publish 3 times a week, as you can see. Now you don't need to publish anywhere near that amount. On my regular blog that supports my coaching business, I blog once a week. And this month I haven't been blogging at all, because my challenge to you for the month of June was to just go back and look at some of your great old content and re-promote it. So I've been trying to do that, to re-promote older stuff. And you can put that on your editorial calendar too. So it can be for, like, these are stories that I've color coordinated. You can see I have yellow and green and purple and blue. And if I take a look at the whole month, I realize I really don't have a lot of blue here. So I might want to make an adjustment. This is a month that happened in the past, but I realized I didn't have any blue at all at the time, so I added some blue. So then the next month I made sure that I started off with blue, which are different categories for me. And then in the front of my book, what I like to do is I come up with ideas for those 4 categories that I have. So I know a lot of you have blogs where you're supporting a business and you sell products, or maybe you sell services, and what I would encourage you to do on your blog is to really only have about 4 to 5 categories of content that you're writing about, to make sure that you stay on brand on your blog. So like for me, this is a lifestyle magazine that I have. So I have a category that's life, and it's all about lifestyle. I have one for beauty, one for style, and one for food, where I do recipes. And everything is about Italian lifestyle and Mediterranean eating. So they all fit in with my brand message. But you want to, if you are selling products, you might want to have a category where you talk about your products, obviously. And you might want to have a category where maybe you discuss your ingredients, or a tutorial category, a how-to category where you teach people little things. And then maybe like another category that's just on brand for you, that isn't necessarily about your products, but is something that maybe is in line with your company's mission and your company's goals. So maybe you're, sorry, I keep clearing my throat. So maybe if you're a company that is very eco-friendly, maybe you have a category that is about eco-friendly news, or or if you're if you sell soaps and they're vegan, maybe you have a category that's vegan. And even though it's not about your products, it's still something that is on brand for you. So it doesn't necessarily have to be. Take a sip of water, baby. That'll help. So it doesn't necessarily have to always be about your products. Like, you don't always want to be selling, and doing that on your blog. But if it's a message that speaks to your target audience, because it's something that they care about, it's something that your brand cares about, that's perfectly acceptable. It's actually really good to have as one of your categories. So then break it down into 4 and maybe color coordinate them so you can add them onto your calendar in however often you choose to publish. And then it kind of helps you fill in your calendar. So when you look and when like I say, like, oh, I didn't have a lot of blue this month, I know I have to come up with something in my style category. And my style category isn't really like fashion. It's more like home decor and just, style in general. And it kind of helps you come up with ideas that way too. And you can color coordinate even on an electronic calendar. Like if you use Google Calendar, obviously you have to have a Google account if you want to use a Google Calendar. But it's free, and you can color coordinate there. And it's the type of calendar where you can set up reminders for yourself, which is a great thing. So if you do like to do things online like that, a Google Calendar is a great option. And if you have employees, or if you have interns, or you have a VA or somebody that works with you and you want to be able to share the content on your calendar, then you're probably better off having an electronic calendar. And maybe have this just for yourself. Like, I don't share this with anyone. I'm a one-woman show. But you want to think about those types of things. So let me go over my notes here so I can talk in a more orderly fashion. So the types of things that you can include in an editorial calendar are obviously your content and what kind of blog post you're going to create. But the first thing I do when I get a calendar is I like to go through, how they mark off all the holidays in here? I go through and I just look for any holidays that pertain to my brand. And obviously if you're selling products, you're going to be, looking at Christmas and knowing when Thanksgiving is, so that you know when Black Friday is, and different kinds of holidays that might pertain to you. If you make bath fizzies that are in the shape of cupcakes or something, you might want to note down when it's National Cupcake Day. You know how there's all those fun little days. You can get one of those calendars that tell you all the little fun made-up holidays, National Pizza Day or something, and maybe you can relate. They can give you ideas for blog posts. But you can also put on your calendar, like I have on here. Let me get back to March. I penciled in a little note to myself here to swap out one of my ads. Like on this blog, I have a couple of ads that run down the side. And I know that that one was expiring on that day. So it's just a little reminder for me to swap it out with something else. But you can also keep an editorial calendar for your promotions for social media. And there's all kinds of tools that you can use for that don't necessarily have to be, like if I put every social media post on this calendar, it would just, I would be spending more time on my calendar than I do on my content, when I do that. But there are tools like I use Buffer. The only downside of Buffer is that it's a paid tool, so I spend, I think, $10 a month to have Buffer. But it keeps all of my social media accounts in order and in a calendar form, so I can go on there and I can pre-fill in days that I want to do social media posts. So when I come to this calendar and I do this blog post today, like this was a food post, it was about making a Buddha bowl. But then I can go take that, and the day that I publish it, I might promote it on my Facebook page, in my Facebook group, I'll tweet it out, I'll do it in all the normal channels. But then I'll go into my Buffer and I'll put it maybe 2 weeks out to re-promote it again. And then I don't have to worry about it anymore, like I don't think about it. And maybe I'll do it like 2 weeks later. And you can pre-set that up, or you can use something like Hootsuite to pre-schedule your social media posts. And Hootsuite is free. So there are all different kinds of tools that you can do to keep you organized in not only creating your content, but in the promotion of your content, because really, if you're going to blog, maybe like once a week is what I would suggest would be the minimum. The whole rest of the week you could be promoting that, and you can be promoting your older posts too. Like, they don't really go away. You know, like once you put them on Facebook, you might not want to re-promote them on Facebook because, you know, they kind of stay there. But something like Twitter just goes flying by. You could tweet something out 3 times, you know, 4 times a day if you wanted to. And then, you know, if it's on Instagram or something, you can set that up in advance to maybe go a week later and maybe use a different photo or something, you know, so that it looks a little different. You know, there are all different kinds of ways that you can pre-do that to where you're making one piece of content and then you're getting a lot of traffic out of it. So what I do is I start with the holidays, and then I think about anything that is pertaining to my business. So if you know that you're launching a new product or a new service, or if you're going to have some downtime, you know, if you're going to like have a day where you just back up and do some housekeeping stuff, and you're going to have maintenance, you want to put that on your calendar. Let me see what else I have here. And once you get things on your calendar, there are 2 ways to think about how to do the work around it. So you can either forward plan or you can backward plan. And what I mean by that is, like, say you do have Christmas on your calendar. You might already be thinking about Christmas. You know, I know it's only June, but it's a huge season for anyone who is selling products. And if you're a blog that's not about products, it's still just a huge season in the United States in general and around the world. So you might want to start with that end date, and then you start going backwards and thinking about the kind of things that you have to prepare for that. And I'm sure you do that with your products. So you're gonna think, okay, Christmas, and when you have to start, and what you're gonna make, and how much you're gonna make, and what kind of shows you're gonna go to, and you know where you're gonna sell your products. But you can also do that with your content. So you know, like, you don't want to do a Valentine's Day post about your products on Valentine's Day because it's already Valentine's Day, right? So you need to do it a little in advance of that, so people have time to say, oh, I need that for Valentine's Day, and they have time to buy it. You know, they get to see your post in advance, a week or 2. Buy it in advance, get it shipped to them. It gives them a little time. So you need to always kind of like have your holidays on your end dates, and then think about the backwards planning and how much time you're going to need. So if you're going to make a video, you're going to need time to edit it and upload it and to shoot it, you know, and you just keep going backwards from that date. And then forward planning, I would say, like, when I just make things in these colored Post-it notes, I just start looking. If they're just posts that I want to do and they're not tied to any specific date, I can publish them whenever I want. I just sort of use forward planning for that. So I'll look, okay, I need to fill in this Monday, I need to fill in this Monday, I need to fill in this Monday, you know, and it you know, so it can work both ways. Let me get to my little next section. I talked about the type of calendars. I think Google Calendar is a great thing. I use several calendars, actually. I was going to walk you into my other room, but it's kind of dark because I have on my little office there, I have colored Post-it notes lined up against the wall, and it's just the months across the top. I have blue ones across the top that say, you've probably seen them if you've seen any of my other videos, and I just have one for every month, and then going vertically down, I have different colors of things that I have to do that month, and it's kind of like my year and monthly calendar in one, to where I can take a step back from that, and it has my major milestones on it, to where this is my week-by-week, day-to-day planner. The one that I have on the wall is my yearly calendar. So when I worked at the website, I used to keep a yearly calendar because there were certain events that we had to do every year, and I didn't want to forget about them. You know, there were certain auto shows that we went to. There was a certain time of year that we did a new car buying guide. We used to do that in November because it was by the time November came, all of the new cars for the following year were out, and we could have like a whole buying guide where we could compare the different cars. And then in May we would do a used car, you know, the best used cars for the past, you know, so many years within a certain time frame, to get the best deals. So then I would look at my yearly calendar every now and then and be like, okay, it's April now, in May we have to publish the used car stuff. We have to start thinking about that, you know. And we used to have other teams that we had to deal with at that company, where we would create the content, someone else would build it and put it on the website. So if you have a team, you know, you might also want to put tasks on the editorial, on their version that they can see of your editorial calendar, that tells them what they need to do and what the deadline is. It doesn't really need to be too complex. I mean, you know, if you're just having a blog for your business, and it's not like a major corporation. You know, it's much simpler. So don't get frightened by when you see my calendar and it has all these Post-it notes. I'm like a content creating machine. You don't need to publish this much. I'm so used to creating content that really, on my regular blog for my business, I only do it once a week. So don't be frightened by how many Post-it notes are on here. Once a week is plenty. And the key is, though, to be consistent on when you do it. Like I try to do my blog posts on my coaching blog post every Sunday night so that people have it Monday morning in their inbox. So that there are people who come back regularly to look at that content. And I want them to know that it's always going to be on that day. It's not going to randomly be on a Wednesday or something like that. It's always going to be in the day that I publish it. That's very important, I think, for repeat traffic. But also, there are a lot of people, if you have your SEO designed properly, that are going to find your website just through search. And they don't really care what day you published it on, so they're going to probably find some of your older posts and things like that. So one of the questions that came in, let me look here. One of the questions that someone wrote in was how to decide which days of the week are best for what type of posts, or is it trial and error depending upon your business and your audience? So I would say with your blog posts, it doesn't really matter as long as you promote it at a consistent time. So I send my newsletter out on Sunday night because I wanted people, my original idea was for people to have it first thing Monday morning. But there is some trial and error involved in that because I used to set it really late at night. I figured people were in bed, and this way it would be the first email that they saw on Monday morning when they're starting their week out, you know. But one day I accidentally, instead of hitting schedule, I hit it to go live, and it went live at like 7:30, and it got so much more engagement at like 7:30 on Sunday night than it did when I set it for Monday morning. So I was like, oh, you know, I learned something by doing that. So I started sending it out instead earlier on Sunday evening. So it takes a little trial and error to figure out when you're going to publish your content. But I think when you put it on your blog, as long as it's consistent, it doesn't matter like if Monday is better than Wednesday or whatever. As long as when you promote it, like with your newsletter, that's where you really want to figure out when it's best, what's the best time for you to send it. And you're really only going to know that by trial and error. And the same thing with your social media accounts. Something like, you know, depending on who your audience is, they're going to be on different social media channels. So like my audience is predominantly on Facebook. If my audience was a little younger, maybe they would be on Instagram, or if they were really young, maybe they would be on Snapchat. So you have to find the one that, you know, you can kind of play around with all of them, but have one that you know is best for you and concentrate on that one. And then with a little trial and error, you will figure out what are the best times to post for those people. And it takes just a little practice, you know, like try different times and maybe even ask them. Like when I scheduled this Facebook Live call, I put a poll up in the Blog Your Brand group and I gave 6 times. I gave Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, a morning time and an afternoon time. And I was actually really surprised that people chose Friday morning because I thought, well, people will be at work. A lot of people do, you know, they have the weekend off. But really, if you're a maker in this business, you do a lot of stuff on the weekend, right? So Friday was better, I guess, for a lot of you. So, you know, and sometimes it just pays to ask, you know, and then just, you know, use trial and error, use your best judgment of when you see the engagement. It's important to track your analytics so that you know when people are coming, because if you use WordPress, you know, your analytics are built right in, or if you use Google Analytics, you can see when people are coming, and like what a higher rate of when people are coming, and the different social media accounts. It really depends on who your audience is. Like, I don't do really much business on Twitter at all, but when I worked for the auto company, everything we tweeted out got like tons of hits. You know, so it depends on what industry you're in, who your audience is in, and where they're finding you. So it really it takes practice. So I don't know how to specifically answer that question except to say, yes, it really is trial and error. But it is important to be consistent with it. So whatever you choose. It's okay to try different times in the beginning, but once you settle on one, people are going to expect it, and it's best to settle on a time. So let's see what else I have here for you. Things to look for in a calendar. Like, I like the paper calendar because I like to carry it around with me. You know, you might want a smaller one so you can stick it in your bag or something, or you might want an electronic one or something that could just be on your phone. or you might want special software designed for it, or you might like to have an old-fashioned wall calendar that you hang up and you just mark dates off. It doesn't have to be any more complex than that unless you want it to be. So things to look for. I take a sip of water. If you do have employees or interns or a partner or somebody, you may want to look into the ability to share your calendar. So electronic would probably be best for that. Like a Google Calendar, you can set up a calendar and then you can provide specific people access to it. It still would be private in your realm of your Google world, but you can give certain access and you can give certain security level access to people. So maybe you want people to be able, a VA or somebody to be able to look at your calendar and see what they need to do or what's coming up, but not have the ability to edit. Maybe only you are the one who can edit or write. So they're the kind of things to keep in mind, is the ability to share or not, security level that you can set, and access level. Because it's nice to be able to give people assignments on the calendar, like maybe, they open up the calendar and it says like, create such and such a graphic today. And, I need it by Saturday or something like that. They're the little things you can put on your calendar. This isn't going to remind me to do anything on a paper calendar, but like a Google Calendar, you can set it to send you an email or some kind of message, a text message to give you a little alert 15 minutes before, or a half hour before, whatever you set it to be, so you can set up alerts for yourself. So it's another benefit of having an electronic kind of calendar. I tried a plugin that was designed for WordPress. It was just called Editorial Calendar, and it was really easy. I took it down after a while because it wasn't doing what I expected it to do, but it came up in a calendar form and you could schedule your posts on there. But then I realized I kind of like to use my calendar more for planning than for publishing. So what it would do is it would publish on whenever you put it on there. So if you weren't ready and you didn't realize that it was publishing, it would just go out. It was easy because you could just drag and drop from day to day if you wanted. If you're like, okay, this isn't ready on Tuesday, I'm going to move it to Thursday or something. And it would just do it for you, and it was easy in that way. But it really wasn't for planning. It was more for actually pushing content out. So it depends on what you want to use your calendar for. There are options like that. There are certain kinds of plugins that are options. You might want to have the ability to have multiple calendars, like I said. So I set a lot of phone reminders for myself. Because I use a paper calendar, I don't always remember to go look at it in time. I do carry it around with me a lot. But I do like to set up all kinds of alerts for myself just to remind me on my phone or a little email. And, you can even just use your calendar that comes on your iPhone or whatever kind of phone you use, and just to, put little things, little appointments on there. You can put your article ideas on there as an appointment, and set up little reminders for yourself. I'd like the ability to have color coding, so that might be something you want to look at. Obviously, if you're using little Post-it tabs like this, like these are just, little sticky tabs. You can color coordinate, and you can color coordinate in a Google Calendar. I'm sure some of the other ones you can too. I find it really helpful, just for planning and for keeping you on brand. So once you get those categories locked in, and then you can kind of like make sure that you keep filling in those different colors, and you have a well-rounded blog. You might want to have the ability to keep an archive. Like when I had the big whiteboard calendar that I used, I had 5 weeks on that at a time laid out, and it was just like a dry erase board with Post-it notes, and then I would erase a week and I would move it up. So there wasn't really a history, But if you keep something in a Google Calendar, you can kind of just go back through the months. Like if you wanted to be like, oh, I did a fitness challenge last year. I can't remember when I did it. I want to do it again this year. You can kind of just look back through the months and say, oh, okay, it was in April. I'll do it in April again this year. Sometimes it's good to be able to go back and have an archive of what you already did if you want to kind of like bring something back up again, or be like, it really didn't work in April. Maybe I should do it in May, or, it's nice to have a history. And it's nice to be able to have different versions of a calendar too. Like one that you see and then maybe one that your employee sees that might be a little bit different. But that would be some kind of software. I mean, obviously, you couldn't do that with a paper calendar. So, let's see what else I have for you. So I have a little section here called How to Get Started. The first thing I think you need to do is to figure out your publishing goals. So how often you want to publish, where you want to publish, what types of things you want to publish. And like I said, coming up with your basic categories and kind of not straying from them. Sometimes we want to write little fun posts that don't have anything to do with our brand, and you really should try to stay away from that. Like, you might want to share your grandmother's recipe for brownies, but if it doesn't have anything to do with your brand, you really shouldn't put it on your website, and share it on your Facebook page or something. But if it doesn't have anything to do with your business, you have to think of your business as an entity, and when you're publishing content for your business, it's not you publishing it, it's your company publishing it. And does your company want to share your grandmother's brownie recipe? Probably not. But if you do, that's great and sounds like a fun idea. Try to do it somewhere else. Don't do it on your business page. Excuse me. So figure out your publishing goals and what kind of content you want to publish in what categories. The next thing to do is select your type of calendar based on your needs. If it's just for you, it's very easy to select. Like, I can use the paper calendar. But if you do have employees or interns or someone that you want to help you with things, you might want to think about using something that they can have access to as well. Make a list of the type of content that you want to track and assign them a color. So assign each of your categories a color, and then start seeing which ones perform better, and then you can create more of that type of content. Like, if you do how-to posts and you find out that they're really popular, maybe you want to do a lot more of that, to give your audience what they're looking for. The next thing you want to do is, once you have that locked down, is to start filling in your calendar. And sometimes that's the hardest part. So what I do is I just start, I don't want to always come to the day where I'm like, oh my God, it's my blog day. What am I going to write about? You really should, a calendar will really keep you organized in thinking ahead of time what you're going to, you might not have to write it always ahead of time, but know that, like, okay, I'm going to do my flower show post on this day because I'm going to the flower show here. I need a day to write the content and edit it, and then I'm going to publish it on this day, and the flower show runs this whole week. I did actually have a flower show post here. Going to the Philadelphia flower show. But that kind of planning to where, like, you already know what you're going to do on that Wednesday because you know it's coming up, and you know to prepare for it. And so that's what you want to do to start filling out your calendar, and that is how you are going to keep yourself on track publishing consistently. And then you might want to add other things, like I wrote a note to myself to swap out my ad, or you might want to have a separate calendar for your social media promotions. That would be your next step. So once you pick a published date, pick your promotion dates after that, and how you're going to and where you're going to promote it. And when necessary, schedule and maintenance if you have to. If you have a WordPress blog, there's really never any downtime, really, unless you're doing like inventory or something for yourself and you want to block out some days. That's perfectly fine. And then just repeat. Go through those steps and just repeat often. And it really helps coming up with ideas once you get your categories settled down, because then okay, I only have these 4 categories or these 5 categories I'm going to write in, and then you start brainstorming about what kind of content fits into those silos. Let's see, we talked about deadline planning. So I touched a little bit on how to generate ideas with your content calendar. And like I said, once you have your categories settled down, it really helps you come up with ideas, because it seems like you're making it strict that you're only coming up with these few, but it really helps to funnel yourself into certain things that are on brand. It will really help keep you on brand if you limit yourself. You don't have like 20 categories that you're trying to write in. Really focus. It's very important. And then, like I said, if you get a calendar that has holidays, or like the little funky holidays, like National Pizza Day or Cupcake Day, or I got an email yesterday from a company called Trilogy. It's a skincare company that I like, and they're in New Zealand, and they sent out a newsletter about World Ocean Day is coming up, and they're the kind of brand that they're organic and they're eco-friendly, and so they're celebrating that as an important day. And for so many days, if you buy something from them online, they're going to donate a certain amount of money to the whale and dolphin fund. So that's not really something that's about their products, but it's very on brand for them. And anyone who is interested in their company because of the kind of products they make, they're also probably interested in the message that the company has. So they're the kind of things you could look for. National, or International Ocean Day and put that on your calendar. And if it's on brand for you, that's a great blog post generating idea. And a nice way to have a little promotion for your, they'll probably get a bump in products because people who are thinking about whether or not they want to buy are probably going to buy on those days that they're having the promotion so that they give the donation. And that's the kind of thing you can do with your editorial calendar. It just takes a little looking in advance to see what's coming up, or making little holidays up for yourself. If it's your anniversary of your company or something, mark that down and maybe have a little celebratory thing that goes along with it. So it doesn't always have to be about products. It can be messages that are on brand for you, and or things that are just of interest to your particular target market. Like I write a lot about Italian lifestyle, so sometimes I'll put posts just about articles that I read that are about Italy, and it has nothing to do with my services that I offer. Well, it has a little bit to do with them, but it's still something that is of interest to the same audience that I'm trying to capture. So I'm not always pushing my stuff in front of them. I'm sharing other things with them and becoming kind of like someone that they enjoy to go to for that type of content. So your calendar can also help you come up with like a lot of great ideas like that. So I want to finish off by giving you a couple of tips. One is to be reasonable with yourself. If you can't publish 3 times a week, don't publish 3 times a week. You don't have to. I mean, this is, for me, I'm trying to have a magazine blog with this one. So this is like what a whole magazine will publish in a month. I just spread it out over, if you get InStyle magazine and you have like the cover story, and then there's some little articles, and then there's some medium-sized articles all sprinkled throughout, and this would be one whole issue of a magazine. That's the way I'm trying to run this one. But for your business blog, pick what is reasonable for you to handle. So once a week is probably plenty. If you can only do twice a month, so every other week, then do it, but just make sure you do it consistently. Don't overburden yourself. It's more important, really. It's very important to create great content that's on brand, but it's also very important how often you promote it. So you don't always have to be creating content. You can be re-promoting it and finding new ways to re-promote the great content that you've already produced. A lot of it's not going to expire. It's still going to be great content. So, just be reasonable with what you can handle. Don't spend so much time on your calendar that you're not spending time on the actual content and promotion, is what I'm saying. And be flexible. So if something comes up in the news that you would like to address that happens to be on brand for you, you have to be able to say like, all right, I'm not going to publish this story that I was going to publish today. I'm going to put that off for next week because today I want to talk about something else that's very timely, something that just happened. So be flexible and be able to. That's why I like to use Post-it notes, so I can just pick them up and move them. I don't have to erase anything. I just move it along. And also be prepared for technology to fail on you. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, we're so dependent on it now that it can be disastrous. So if you schedule a blog post to go at a certain time, be prepared for it to not go. Like I said before, I always set my newsletter to go up like around midnight, and the one day I accidentally goofed and it went early. It ended up being a good thing. But the other day I scheduled I do a YouTube channel where I publish on Mondays and Thursdays, and I had gotten my video for Thursday already on Wednesday, and I set it on a timer to go 7 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. And then I got up the next morning and I was like, oh, here's my video live, and I watched it. I was like, oh my God, I put up the wrong version. I had to take it down right away and put up the right version. Somehow I just clicked the wrong box when I was selecting the file. That's really human error, not technology error, but be prepared for weird things like that to happen, or for it to just not push it out because for some reason the timer failed or something, So always make sure that you have a manual backup system somehow. And I think that is all I have. I do have a gift for you because all of this information that I have been put out today has come from a book that I wrote 2 years ago that I published to Amazon Kindle. It's called How to Create an Editorial Calendar and Never Run Out of Ideas for Your Blog and Newsletter. Sorry. It's really a booklet. It's only 21 pages long, something like that. But I made it free on Amazon, and actually I'm going to put the link under this video. So if you have an Amazon Kindle, you can go and you can download it for free. Let me see. To get back to this. Well, I'll do it as soon as I'm done. I don't want to waste time doing it in front of you. Here it is. I can. Okay, I just put it in the comment section. So for today, Saturday and Sunday, it's free. It's only 99 cents when it's not free. But it is free for the next 3 days. So if you were somewhere where you couldn't take notes, if you didn't have a chance to take notes, you can read all of this in a more concise format in the book instead of me rambling on. So that is all I have. So unless you have any questions, let me know now, and I will try to address them. Let me just check to see if anyone wrote any questions online here. I answered the one that was already in the group. Okay, so somebody wrote, I use WordPress for my site. There's a plugin for an editorial calendar. Has anyone used it? That's the one I was talking about. I'll write your answer in here too in case you're not still on here, Janie. But that's the one that I did use. It's great for scheduling publishing. It's not great for planning because as soon as you fill something in, it thinks you want to publish it, and it will publish whatever version you have set up at the time on that time. So you have to make sure that everything is finished and ready to go. So if you do want it to just schedule out when you're publishing, don't use it as a planning tool. Use it as a publishing tool. I will write that in here when I'm done here. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody said, what do you mean by live? How do I access it? Oh, okay. Somebody answered and said it's live in the Blog Your Brand group. Days of the week are best. I already answered that. Okay. Let me see. I don't see any other questions. So I am going to wrap it up. Thank you for joining me if you were here live. And you can always watch the recording. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to write questions below this post, and I will check back later, and I will try to answer them for you. And I put the link in there to the book. It's free for the next 3 days, so go ahead and download it. If you do download it, please go back to Amazon and write me a review afterwards, because it really helps with the rankings on Amazon. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you enjoy the book. So thank you, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.